Picture this, you're 10 years old in 2007 and you just finished one of the best games you've ever played, Half-Life 2 Episode 2, the fourth mainstream game of one of your favorite game series out there. It ends with a little bit of a cliffhanger, but that only makes you more excited for the next installment of Half-Life. A year later, you see plenty of interviews with Gabe Newell talking about Half-Life 2 Episode 3 with excitement and confidence. However, it's now your 14th birthday in 2011 and there has been next to no news about Half-Life whatsoever. And every time Gabe is asked about it, this is what he says.
Episode 3, can you give us any news on that?
No, right? We don't have anything about Half-Life or Episode 3.
Maybe, just maybe, they'll pull through to give us something. I mean, just because they have nothing to say, it doesn't mean they're not trying to create something, right? It's now your 18th birthday in 2015. The last single-player game they released was Portal 2, almost 4 years ago at this point. Surely they're working on something. Speaking of which, a year later in 2016, someone named Tyler McVicker covered some supposed leaks about a new HLVR, something virtual reality related to do with Half-Life. You don't blame the people in the comments for being skeptical though, as at this point, Valve is perceived as a money printing machine with the help of Steam, so why would they bother making a fully fledged single-player game? It's now 2018, you're 21 years old. There's been even more supposed leaks of a Half-Life VR game, but people are just as skeptical. Valve has been silent for years, it just wouldn't make sense. And at this point, everyone's expectations are at an all-time low. And well, they have every reason to be. It's now June 28th, 2019, and Valve has actually released something, not a game, but a piece of hardware, a VR headset. Maybe, just maybe, they'll release something alongside it. Well, a couple of months go by and nothing. It seems Valve has gone back to radio silence. Yet, 5 months later, on November 21st, I love Half-Life Alyx. It's one of my favorite VR games, full stop, and genuinely, every time I play it, it feels like a different experience, and I love it. With all the Half-Life 3 rumors going on right now, I felt like this is as good a time as ever to go through Half-Life Alyx chapter by chapter, giving my thoughts on the mechanics and the story, as a kind of love letter. Because I love this game, and to be honest, it makes me feel kind of nostalgic, for the sole reason that I was still a young kid in high school when this game was released in March 2020. I had no clue it existed. Then, completely by my own means, I started Half-Life 1 in the following month, then Half-Life 2, and then the episodes. I got hit with that cliffhanger and thought that that was all there was. Then, I looked on Steam and Half-Life Alyx was there. You cannot imagine my happiness when I realized how perfectly the timing lined up, but it wasn't until 2021 when I actually purchased it, and this was because it was a little pricey, and I also needed a headset. Anyway, eventually, I got the headset because my dad wanted to try VR and enough pocket money to buy the game. It then became my #1 VR title overnight, and trust me, I've played a lot of other VR games. So with a rumored new Half-Life game being right around the corner, please God say it's true, why not revisit the most recent installment and see where the next game may pick up from? When we first enter, we see this message. Valve even acknowledging the cliffhanger felt surreal. I was under the impression that Valve didn't like to look back, but this seemed like the opposite. It made me feel like they've changed for the better, giving me the idea that this game was going to be good. And well, just imagine being someone who's only played games like this, and this, seeing something like this. Immediately, the
best looking VR game I've ever seen.
And if Jacksepticeye said it, then it's gotta be true. I mean, look at the environment. Look how goddamn detailed the plant pots are. Look at the light refracting off the bottle. You can crush the cans. Sorry. Once you get past the gorgeous visuals, we can start moving on to the story. Oh my god, are those fully working markers in VR? How the hell did they code this? What talented people do I have to thank for this amazing feature? Sorry. I'll just carry on. We see Eli with his gorgeous animation, which is, to be honest, levels above anything I've seen in VR, let alone video games in general. He tells us that they've managed to steal
one combined mini reactor from a shipment of 4,000. They're never gonna miss it.
Then someone chimes in who we've never heard before.
And not only that, someone's hacked into the Combine construction network.
And his voice, those mutton chops, the accent, I think I'm in love. Russell is a completely new character whose introduction is masterfully done. It's seamless and feels like I've known him for years, which in the game we probably have, so it feels very natural. And I couldn't care less what the soulless people who download this add-on say, he is always funny, no matter what playthrough I'm on. Sure, while I'm not belly laughing on the floor, he's charming, so stop being boring. Anyway, Eli tells us to meet up with him at the safe house, and so we make our way through the environments and oh my god, there's a snark. You could feed the snark. It does a little dance. Now that is Game of the Year material right there. You also see some cool drawings for Dog and its iterations, which I think is just a really cool callback and a nice Easter egg for those who played Half-Life 2.
First model was about yay high. I've been adding to him ever since.
We then get in an elevator, or as I call them, a lift, and make our way down to the laundry to meet our new friend named Olga, who sadly, we don't get to see much of. She doesn't feel very explored, and that makes seeing her a bit stale every time I play. Maybe if she was replaced with a Half-Life 2 model, maybe female 1 or female 2 or, well, I guess any of the females. I think that could have been a really cool nod and created some backstory, but Olga is fine for what she is. Also, it's probably a good time to mention the clothes of the citizens in Half-Life Alyx and the other Half-Life games are widely different. Now I know it would be great if I could input my thoughts right here, but that would mean going non-chronologically, which I don't like doing. The ending of the game kind of gives us a reason, so why don't you subscribe, then maybe I'll make Act 2, and I can talk about all my theories. I'll probably make Act 2 anyway, but please subscribe, thank you. Anyway, we meet up with Olga again, and apparently, according to her,
Some things about the CPUs are gonna work. Keep your head down and be smart.
and so by the time we get to where Eli is, we've already been found out, and well...
Whoa, wait, I just live here.
Probably anti-citizen. Get those hands off!
Wait, don't shoot.
Don't touch the button! Give us names.
You didn't steal anything.
Don't care. What did you see?
No one! I didn't see anyone!
Get it out and take it to the transport.
Dad! Hey, wait, no!
The motion capture in this game is incredible. That entire scene felt like I was in it, which doesn't happen often in VR. Most of the time, I know I'm in a game, but I genuinely just raised my hands out of instinct. Valve has done an amazing job. And the humor is also on point, as you can see in the next scene.
Tell her to stop moving around back there. Stop moving. What is that? Get it! It's under the seat! Get it!
The way that he looked at the grenade, that might be the closest thing we have to being inside a cartoon in VR. Anyway, once you're saved, a cool little hijacked camera robot thing. Wait, what are those called? City scanners, yes, well, it gives us a headset, and this is the genius way that Valve incorporated a VR-only mechanic into Half-Life's story. I think if Half-Life 2 Episode 1 was spent without Alyx, and she was talking to you through a headset, it probably wouldn't work.
Hey, an air duct. I've heard stories about you and air ducts.
However, neither would a fully rendered companion in VR. That's a little tricky to code into every single section of the game. So they compromised, and it definitely paid off because, as I said earlier, I love Russell. And Russell tells us that he saved us instead of Eli by accident.
So, Dad's okay, right?
Yeah, well, no, to be honest, he's in huge trouble.
But,
They've still got him. He was in a separate transport.
and you saved me?
Well, yes, I had no way of knowing who was in which van, so... Yes, salt flew when I saved you.
Meaning, we need to get him back, otherwise he'll visit a very familiar place.
When they realise he's Eli Vance, to Nova Prospect.
A prison which Gordon would be storming through 5 years later. Russell also mentions that they found something that the Combine really do not want people to know about, and
Whatever it is, they're gonna kill anybody who saw it, and anybody who knows anybody who saw it.
we then get to a little playground which, to be honest, I hoped would have more interactivity, as it's obviously a nod to the playground at the start of Half-Life 2, and that showcased the engine and its physics really well. However, the only thing that this playground shows is messing around with tic-tac-toe, or spinning a roundabout that breaks as soon as you try to get on. They didn't even try with the seesaw, but anyway. One new mechanic that they have been showing for a bit has been ladders in VR, and I think Valve has done a great job in making the ladders a smooth experience, for the most part. I don't like the sudden jolt at the top of the ladders when you move off. It feels unnatural, and kind of takes away the immersion because up until that point, it really does feel like you're on a ladder. Why am I talking about ladders? Anyway. We make it to Russell's lab, and find out that he's even more handsome in real life. We also find out that he has a plan to get our dad back, and so the aim of the game is laid out in front of us.
Right, well what they will do is take him by train from here, this is Eli, to Nova Prospect.
And if he gets on that train, that's it, right?
Not necessarily. Grab something that represents us. Okay, that's you.
I thought you said us.
Well, one of us, me, will have to stay here for this plan to work.
All right.
We then get our hands on the gravity gloves, and I swear to God, once you get the hang of them, these are the most satisfying and best way of grabbing things in VR. Nothing else compares, and I think a big part of that would be the fact that it works in tandem with the franchise. We had the gravity gun in Half-Life 2, Half-Life Alyx is based 5 years before, and so it makes a lot of sense that they'd be working with prototypes or messing around with gravity in general. Having gloves that influence gravity instead of completely holding things in midair is such a great way of showing the gravity gun's previous iterations, while serving a purpose within the game itself. Kind of like how Alyx got dog and slowly added to him over time. We then get this great moment where Russell almost kills us with the main gun that starts all Half-Life games, the pistol. And this weapon feels, sounds, and looks amazing. I could play an entire playthrough just using the pistol, but using shotguns in VR feels pretty cool, so, you know.
Oh, you took care of that lock then. Good. Great. You did have the key for it.
We then get on the train to find our dad, and that is the end of Chapter 1.
Hello, Alyx? We might have a problem. Probably nothing to worry about, but... Did the train stop? It stopped, didn't it?
Yes, we're stuck, and yes, that is a dead person with his guts ripped out. Keen-eyed people will notice the elongated hands and remember that this is the transformation of a head crab zombie taking over a host. Now we get why it's called the quarantine zone. Next up...
Resin. And if there's resin around here, there should be a Combine fabricator. Keep an eye out. We might be able to upgrade your firepower a bit.
This is one of my favourite parts of Half-Life Alyx, and the sole reason why I can play 45 hours of it and not get bored. Resin is hidden throughout the game, under boxes, inside barnacles, inside little crevices. They're everywhere, but they're not everywhere at the same time. Valve has balanced it perfectly to make it so that if you're not looking for them, you'll only come across what you need. However, if you're actively looking for resin, you will find tons, which is massively satisfying. Especially when you buy something and load up the Combine Fabricator. Ah yes, the Combine Fabricator. Having 3 weapons all throughout the game is bound to get boring, but Valve didn't want to add too much of an arsenal in order not to overwhelm the inexperienced VR players. But how do you keep the weapons fresh over time? Upgrades. Whether it be adding grenade launchers, laser sights, or auto-loading, the upgrades are a great way of keeping the combat fresh. However, you will only get a couple of upgrades if you're not looking for resin. Meaning, the game rewards you for looking around. Meaning, you get rewarded with the incredible detailed environments that Valve has dotted around. It's genuinely a pleasure to look around and find things. It's basically a game-long egg hunt, except the eggs are hockey pucks, and the hockey pucks can buy you things. Specifically, upgrades for your weapons. Also, can we appreciate the design of the Combine Fabricator? Is this not the coolest thing ever? It fits really well within the game and feels very Combine-y, so it's perfect.
Huh. I think I can reroute this with my multi-tool.
Your what?
It's a tool with multiple functions. So, you know, multi-tool.
Ah yes, next up is the multi-tool, an electricity rerouting gadget. This is the genius way that Valve used a really small aspect of Alyx's character and made it into something really cool. Back in the Half-Life games, Alyx broke through doors using this thing, which we now can see is the multi-tool. In the Half-Life game, she doesn't need to reroute anything and just zaps it with electricity. I've seen some people say that that's just how it is. Zapping stuff in VR wouldn't be nearly as fun as actually using the multi-tool to get into the wires, but I believe there's a canon reason. Much like how the gravity gloves are a predecessor to the gravity gun, I think that this multi-tool was the predecessor to whatever Alyx had in Half-Life 2. 5 years is a long time to improve on your design, so in my head, it makes sense.
Alyx, that thing's incredible. You need an incredible brand name. Something that really sells it.
Who am I gonna sell it to?
The Combine's not going to be here forever. You should be thinking about the future, Alyx.
Pause. Yes, that's a health charger, and yes, it's the most amazing thing you've ever seen. Look at the goddamn detail. Let's just compare it to Half-Life 2. Oof! Okay. Let's talk about this thing for a second. The way it works is you place your hand onto the pad, and little needles administer mystery juice from this little grub guy. And not even kidding, I just realized writing the script right now that the grub is antlion larva. That makes so much sense. In episode 2, we went through the antlion caves, and we could gain health through little grubs. And okay, it all makes sense. I don't know why I didn't gather this before, but anyway. These stations administer health until you're at full, which is really cool to watch and feels weird as hell to be a part of. I just know people who are scared of needles hate doing this. We then move through the environments, finding resin, ammo, and smashing bottles on the ground, like my monkey brain wants me to, and we see our first proper enemy, the barnacle, which looks incredibly gross in VR, spewing out past victims. Yuck. But it's the simplest of enemies. Just don't walk under it and you'll be fine. You can also feed it physics objects too, which is really fun and just feels so right to do. We then get some really cool dialogue from Russell detailing his relation to Eli and Alyx, and some cool acknowledgement of the Black Mesa incident, also confirming that Alyx was actually at the facility itself.
How'd you meet my dad, anyway? You guys work together at Black Mesa, right?
Yeah. Well, no. Tricky place to get a job at, actually. I interviewed at Black Mesa. They said try again in a year. I don't need to tell you what happened after that. Lucky break for me, really. Not a lot of survivors. Honestly, it's a miracle you and your dad got out of it.
I love the little dialogue bits the game rewards you with for exploring.
Do you need a minute? Because, I could pause the feed.
Just looking, Russ.
Next up is this cool little house which allows us to open the hatch to the quarantine zone. This was amazing timing considering a certain virus that was going around at the time.
Now that I'm walking into the quarantine zone, it just hit me. I don't know anything about the quarantine zone.
Well, actually, the word quarantine comes from the Italian 40 giorni, which means 40 days, the period that all ships were required to be isolated before crew could go ashore during the Black Death.
Alright.
The way we open this hatch is by opening this little storage thing and using the fuel cell to power the hatch. The way we open it is by using a very cool new minigame type system. Except in VR, it's way more fun than if it was in flat screen. Now, some silly people believe that these minigames are bad and repetitive, but I think it's a really cool way of using VR and the Alyx, to get power, ammo, and health through storage or whatever else we need to use it on. Anyway, we use the hexagonal power thingy and turn on these weird flesh things in order to open up... Is that a rat? In order to open up the quarantine zone. Oh my god, it's the Zen fauna. And is that the flipping tentacle from Half-Life 1? Yes, Half-Life Alyx explores the Zen worlds from Half-Life 1 much more than Half-Life 2. In fact, in Half-Life 2 we barely see any of the Zen creatures other than head crabs as the Combine have taken over. This was weird and is still weird. It's almost like Valve skipped Half-Life 2 regarding Zen, but went back to it retrospectively with Alyx, because they realized, oh shit, wait, Zen is cool. But I think there's a lore reason. Now we could just say that in Half-Life 2 we simply just don't go to the place where Zen stuff is, but I think that's dumb and there's a better reason. In Alyx, we see that the quarantine zone and beyond is the only place where Zen fauna is present, but it's been sectioned off. I think that over time the Combine managed to get rid of or cure any contaminants with the Zen creatures. But of course they keep head crabs as weapons, and that's why we still see them and other variants in Half-Life 2, instead of bull squids or hound eyes. Yet here we have different head crabs and different species of fauna because it's 5 years earlier and the Combine haven't gotten rid of them yet. Anyway, that's my reason. We see even more cool little Zen fauna, which, to be honest, is kind of disgusting. Like, no, don't do that. After entering, we have our first health pack, which looks so flipping cool. Ugh, the models in this game are just so good. Look at them.
Hey, Russell. I just found a loose syringe of God knows what. Is this medicine?
Does it have a skull and crossbones on it?
Ah yes, the classic Half-Life zombie. These fellas are just as scary, and they're much more varied now, with each one having different clothing, adding to the realism immensely, giving each one the sense that, yeah, that's a person who's still in there but can't do anything about it. Well, that's a downer. let's talk about how flipping amazing the motion capture is in this game. While yes, it isn't perfect, getting something like that right is incredibly hard, and I believe that they did a good enough job. One day I'm sure the reaction to the environments will flow seamlessly, but that's for Half-Life 3 to figure out, of course. Glass. I love glass. Look at how it moves, how it breaks. This is the best feature, I don't care what anyone says. This type of interactivity is what I dreamt of as a kid. One day being able to punch glass in a video game and its shards individually falling off. I flippin' love it, but anyway. This section is incredibly well done. The suspense is great, the fighting is new and slow, but well paced at the same time, introducing players to fighting in VR. One thing I do have a gripe with though, is the stupid, dumb, idiotic planks of wood. Why do they move like that? How can Valve get glass right, but wood has to just break at the slightest touch? You can't even break them in half. That would have been way cooler, but no, this is what we're left with. But hey, if wood is the only thing so far that has taken away my immersion, then that's a pretty good sign. Ah, here we are, the Combine Fabricator. The thing that I talked about earlier shows up for the first time here. You have to do a little game every time to open it, and I wonder why the Combine were playing minigames to get into their tech. Maybe it's just an Alyx thing, who knows. God, loading your resin in is always going to be satisfying. At the start, the game kind of forces you into adopting a reflex sight upgrade on your gun, by only giving you enough resin for it, specifically. It's a smart way of showing the fabricator off. The reflex sight not only shows a reticle, so you know exactly where you're aiming, it also shows weaknesses in enemies and objects, parts of them that do the most damage, I guess. Also, let's just appreciate the reloading of this gun. It feels so nice to do. The next enemy we encounter is the head crab itself. These little f***ers are scary as all hell and can literally grab onto your face. It's terrifying, and I love it. Also, seeing them in VR really gives us a great point of reference to just how big they really are. Playing in flat screen does not do it justice.
That there is a floppy disk. We used to store information on them, with magnets if you can believe it. Specifically, 2 micrometers magnetic iron oxide, 3 micrometers barium ferrite, 1.2...
Russell? How do you know all this?
I'm reading it here on my computer. I downloaded the internet before the war.
You downloaded the entire internet?
Most of it.
Nice.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know what technology or flipping storage space you'd have to download most of the entire internet. Actually, I do know. It's 12.5 zettabytes of data, which is equal to around 1.25 quadrillion paper-filled storage boxes. I want whatever gaming system that Russell was rocking before the 7-hour war, god damn. We then find this incredible mural, dedicated to Gordon Freeman and Half-Life in general. It depicts the Vortigaunts being slaves, the Antlines, the Nihilanth, Striders, the Combine, and Hound Eyes, and of course, Gordon Freeman, someone who was integral in freeing the Vortigaunts all those years ago. This of course gives us a hint of who made these pictures, but anyway, we solve a cool little puzzle, leading us into this.
Whoa. This is weird. Oh.
The Alyx fans. You received my messages.
I did?
Oh my god, I love this guy. He's just so cool, despite eating head crabs as a snack. He then gives us a little bit of a lecture while Alyx clearly wants us to leave, but the Vortigaunt has some interesting words.
The Alyx Vance is honestly very busy saving her dad.
You will not save him. He is dead.
What?
Or he will be.
Is or will be?
It is a matter of perspective. But Alyx Vance alone cannot prevent his fate.
Now, I love this. I didn't get it the first time I played, but what he's saying is that Eli is always going to die. Alyx may save him now, but eventually, in that hangar with those advisors, he will die. And I believe the Vortigaunt knows this, or has a feeling he can't explain. That's why he says it's a matter of perspective. We could say he's dead, or we could say he will be. Both lead to the same conclusion, but are just different ways of thinking about it. I love this dialogue. And the voice acting and motion capture on this guy is incredible. It's the most fluid and realistic movement I've seen so far in the game. And the atmosphere that this entire section gives off is so cool. Anyway, we move off after agreeing to save the Vortigaunt's friends, and he tells us to
look to the northern star.
Whatever that means. As we descend further into the sewers, Quarantine Zone comes to an end.
Sustenance!
I'll eat it later.
And Is or Will Be begins. This is the third chapter and continues on with the similar enclosed hallway style. We don't see much of the outside world until later on and are pretty underground inside the quarantine sewers. This of course results in us finding a solid amount of new friends along the way. We can see though the amount of Zen flora that has evolved and been amplified in these sewers, growing a strange sort of green spiky shell surrounding it. It gives this chapter a pretty distinct look from the other chapters. However, sometimes it can feel almost a little too similar. But not by that much, it's just something I realized playing through the game multiple times. I doubt the average player will care. We then see a little bit of the Zen fungus on the ground, and you can pick it up? I wonder why. The shader they used for this slime is interesting. I just wish we could push it around or maybe even detach it or break it in half by hitting it, but I can imagine how hard that'd be to code, so fair enough. Maybe they could take some notes from me for Half-Life 3. Anyway, we then find out what the detached fungus relates to, and that would be these fellas, who are a smart merge of old and new. You can't just outright shoot them due to the fact that their defense is using the fungus as a backpack, meaning you have to shoot their little glowing hearts, which is massively fun to do in my opinion. It gives that extra bit of challenge and can lead to you hitting some very cool shots. Fun fact, they were considered at one point to look like this. Looks a little bit like Hollow Knight. Cool. Alas, we were left with a much better fitting green Zen fungus, which I'm very happy with. We then make our way through the beautiful environments and come across a lovely zombie hanging from the ceiling with a certain little shotgun in its hand. This is where we have to figure out how the hell to bring it down and why not make it some target practice while we're at it. In Half-Life fashion, it's a physics puzzle that could only really be done effectively with VR, which is why I think that VR was a great medium to choose, as it allowed for really cool things to happen that we wouldn't usually think about. But yeah, we should get the shotgun quick because we can hear bashing on the walls and that is never a good sign. Once we get it, we're attacked, and of course, this results in a shootout. It's not too quick, but not too slow either. Pretty balanced considering the game's assuming you don't know what you're doing with a shotgun. Much like the pistol, all we need to do is cock it back, load it up with as many shells as possible, and pull this little lever in order to fully load it. Walking around some more, we find some headcrabs on spikes. Weird, we think, but it's Half-Life 2, what do we expect? We carry on walking around, push some ragdolls off a ledge, kill some headcrabs, find some ammo, and boom, Combine Fabricator. Right now, we can experiment with different upgrades for our different weapons. We have the shotgun and the pistol to play with now, so naturally, most are going to pick the shotgun, where you can get this nice little laser sight. The effect is really cool. After hacking through the Combine barriers, much like the ones from Half-Life 2, we see this. There's never been a place that I've most simultaneously wanted to go to and not to go to at the same time. Just such a cool atmosphere. From this rotting corpse, seemingly strung up by fungus and Zen flora, we get a nice flashlight for our non-dominant hand. This creates a great system of keeping one hand up with the other aiming down, kind of like a police officer, I guess. Yeah, these are terrifying. F that. Sometimes the shotgun laser sight just doesn't flipping work. It's really annoying, and considering Valve has provided incredible support for this game, I'm surprised this little bug slipped through the cracks, but hey, let me just let this scene play out.
Before. What was life like before the Combine?
Excellent. Alyx, have you ever heard of a club sandwich?
Nope, not once.
Right. To make a club sandwich, you need to start with bread. Not from a bread line, from a bakery across the street. Baked that day. Okay? You add tomatoes, lettuce, not vegetable paste, fresh. Then you add bacon. That's from an animal we used to call the pig. You toast the bread and you put all that inside it.
You guys had all that? That's insane.
It is, and I'm not done. Then you add a second sandwich on top of the first one. You put ham in it, also from a pig, and turkey from an animal we used to call the turkey. And more tomato, more lettuce, and a bunch of other things I'm forgetting. It was 6 inches tall and weighed a pound, and had a dozen ingredients from 5 different continents. It was the most impossible food item you could imagine in any age before ours.
Wow.
I know, right?
That is... wow. Thanks, Russ.
You're welcome, Alyx.
This is just such a cool moment. Russell talking so passionately about a BLT just feels so real. Considering the water-flavored sustenance bar we saw at the beginning, we can imagine the rarity of anything food-related that actually tastes good. Any apples we see are rotten, there's simple canned food everywhere now and again, but people will never see a simple, fresh piece of bread for as long as the Combine are around, which really does put the situation into perspective. Now would also be a good time to point out that the voice actor for Alyx is different to Merle Dandridge, who played Alyx in previous games. Instead, here is played by Ozioma Akaraga, I'm so sorry if I butchered that name, who did an incredible job. I've seen some people talk about how they would have much preferred to cast Merle for the role. However, I completely understand Val's reasoning for it, and it makes complete sense. Of course, if it's a prequel about Alyx when she's a teen, the voice of Merle simply wouldn't match up with a role that needs her to be more younger. The only reason people are mad about it is because of nostalgia, and I think that Alyx sounds perfect in this game, for the age range that she is. Next up, we fight some more lovely headcrabs and zombies, using our flashlight while we do so. It is genuinely terrifying.
Okay, so right now, what it's like to live on Earth on a scale of 1 to 10. I'd say we're at a 2.
Yep, could always get worse.
What would you rate it before the combination?
Oh, that's a toughie. I don't know. Good day? I'd say 6. Yeah, strong 6.
6? That's not great.
Now, that's life, Alyx. You know, it's not always great.
Well, maybe we get the combine offer and we could shoot for like an 8, you know?
Oh, an 8. Yeah, that really would be nice. Really nice.
This is a really cool way of speaking about the present world with hindsight that we don't even have. It's all about perspective, I guess, because yeah, the Combine made the world way worse, but that doesn't mean the world was perfect before they came along. Still plenty of work to be done. Oh, indeed. Clearly, Zen has done a great job fighting back towards the Combine, attempting to wipe them out. Next up, manhacks. These were some of the first enemies we encountered in Half-Life 2, but they come in pretty late, all things considered. Seeing them in VR is incredibly scary. They're way bigger than I thought they'd be, and I want to run away. Trying to hit them is a challenge, but with enough practice, you'll be fine. They're not nearly as aggressive as usual.
When we get the Combine off of Earth, what are you gonna do?
I'm going full production mode on the Russells, of course.
Oh, of course. He'll be sitting on a landmine.
Gold mine, yep.
Okay, this part is nerve-wracking as all hell. The place is riddled with explosive barrels, barnacles, and zombies. One wrong shot could result in a reset back to the most recent save, and because you can't be bothered to put in the effort to reload the save, the worry is much more real.
Alyx? Alyx, you still there?
Finally, we make it out of the sewers and find proper ground. Outside, we see the Combine fighting zombies down below, indicating that clearly they are trying to secure this zone from any Zen infestation. Finally, we get another Combine fabricator, and by this point, we don't have enough resin for any of the important shotgun upgrades, so it's best we upgrade the pistol. The bullet reservoir upgrade is one of the most useful upgrades, in my personal opinion, allowing us to use 2 magazines instead of just 1. It's just much easier clearing out enemies when having more ammo without being interrupted. We then come across our first fight with one of the Combine, and it's a fun challenge. Not having much experience to fight them for the first time, it really does feel like fighting someone for real, which I haven't had that much in other VR games because either the melee is clunky or the models just take me out of the immersion, but here, I truly feel like I'm in a firefight. Also, fun fact, this is the only civilian we see dead up close and personal in the entire game. And how the hell did he even end up here in the quarantine zone? We'll see others up ahead, but they're decked out with spiky hats and stuff, being scavengers, not your average Joe. This guy is most definitely your average Joe. I'm gonna need a 30-minute video explaining the lore behind him now, please and thank you. Next up, we have the big fight scene. The great thing about this scene is that it lets you know way in advance exactly what's going on. We first hear the gunshots, then the train goes by and we see the Combine, then the music ramps up, and by that point, the train is still passing by so you can get into position. You really feel you're against all odds here, trying to fight back, duck down, and hide behind walls like your life depends on it, which it does. Eventually, we deal with them and the music fades away. Speaking of music, it is genuinely amazing. Sadly, they did not bring back Kelly Bailey for this, and instead, we have the music of Mike Moraski, who did an incredible job. Apparently, he consulted with Kelly in order to understand the style and get it right, and he most definitely did. Of course, the ambient tracks will never hold the same feeling as Half-Life 2 songs. However, I do feel that when talking about more of the hard-hitting combat-focused songs, there are a couple that could be good contenders for some of the best in Half-Life. And that would be Higher and Cauterizer, both of which are just masterpieces. But I'll point them out specifically when they come up. For now, let's move on to the next set piece. After solving a puzzle in a normal amount of time, we get to an intersection for the trains, which is where Russell is going to stop the train that our dad's on. We figure out the terminal, find another rat, and oh.
Is this supposed to come off?
That's the opposite of what it's supposed to do, Alyx.
What do I do now?
Well, don't panic. We'll stop panicking if you are.
Panicking.
Yes, but I am. We need to find another way to stop this train.
There's gotta be another way to stop this train.
Well, start looking. We don't have much time. 10 seconds, Alyx. Okay, just throw the switch then. 5 seconds.
Seeing this for the first time in VR was insane. I actually cannot believe how cool this made me feel when I first played it. Either way, we open up the hatch, and oh, what's this? Advisors. I feel like this is Valve's way of poking us a little, saying, hey, remember these? Thankfully, they're either sleeping or dead, and then we come across our dad.
Alyx Banks, I have come to help, as I said I would.
Thank you.
I f***ing love this guy, oh my god. He single-handedly saved Eli, and so we owe now literally everything to him. We also learned that our dad stole a Combine data pack.
If I can decrypt it, we can figure out how to use their weapon against them.
So what's the plan?
You head to the vault. I'll take this thing back to Russell's and get to work.
Wait, where is the vault?
Dad, where's the vault?
Look to the northern star.
Yes. Look to the star. Got it. Dad?
It's right in the middle of the QZ, and it's big. Get above ground and see what you can find.
I will accompany the Eli van.
And that is the end of Is or Will Be. The fourth and shortest chapter in Half-Life Alyx is Super Weapon. We previously learned that when Eli decrypts this newly stolen data pack, we'll be able to figure out what this Vault/Super Weapon is and how to use it against the Combine. So we press on, attempting to locate it while also listening to Russell tread the thin line of supportive and selfish. I get what he's trying to say.
I want you to know I'm proud of you. Okay, you're under a lot of pressure here.
Wow. Nice.
So much pressure, in fact, that I hesitate to even bring it up. But I did notice that when you reached out for your father's hand, had he actually grabbed it, his grip would have crushed all the delicate sensors in the Russell.
Ah.
Now, it seems like our direction is headed towards a subway station. A change of scenery from the sewers, and the sewers. In order to proceed, we need to collect some Doomstar colored keycards. It does fit within the context of the world though, don't worry. It's not like they just put it there for the sake of keycard equals cool puzzle, although I guess it does serve that purpose. God, the detail in this game. Listen to the phones. Making sound effects of different objects is something so obvious and so easy to do, but it just adds so much immersion.
Alyx, look out the window.
Holy crap. That's gotta be the vault.
Yeah. Your dad didn't mention it was floating.
This is the vault, and as you heard, it's held up with many different cables. Who knows where they're attached to? That is exactly what we now need to go and find out. We get the keycard, smoke a cigarette, hit a trick shot, and finally, we get some grenades. These things are some of the most immersive weapons in all of VR. It really does feel like a grenade, which I suppose is the idea, but they just did it so well, what can I say? You can also shoot them to create some really cool moments.
Yes.
Nice throw.
Thank you, Russell. Here we see our first big version of the Combine. He sports a shield that can be broken if shot at enough, but the best method for these guys is to grenade their feet. Then take as many shots as possible once they're stunned. It is terrifying to hear them clanking around, but it does give us a nice audio cue to use if we want to surprise them. I have played this game for almost 50 hours now, and this bit still gets me.
Amazing.
Incoming, Alyx!
Now, when you see a little station to hide behind and some grenades, I think you know what's going to happen. This shit is so fun. Thanks, Valve. To be honest, these little fight scenes feel almost too short. Maybe that's because I've just gotten good at the game, but I genuinely wanted there to be more combat, which, if you think about it, is kind of a good thing for the game. If Valve can make me want to fight more people and put in more effort in their game, then that's most definitely a good sign. Anyway, the atmosphere and visuals in these subways are incredible. Just look at it. Every single frame could be a screensaver. And oh, that's the Northern Star. Yes, the Vortigaunt wasn't lying. He literally meant the Northern Star, and
There's the vault.
That substation must be what's keeping it in the air. We need to get up there.
And in order to get up there, we need to make our way inside of the hotel, and that's the end. Yeah, this chapter was way quicker than I remember, only around 23 minutes for me to make it through, but anyway, that's the end of chapter 4. And it's also the end of this video. I'm halfway through the game right now, and if you want Act 2, go ahead and subscribe and leave a like to show me that it's what you want. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next review/analysis.